Hey friend, it's Patricia here. Before we get started with today's episode, I just want to let you know of a new free resource I have in the description. It's called the 10 Easy Ways to Stand Out in a Crowded Job Market. Now, I've noticed that on LinkedIn, there's a lot of great features that call the attention of managers and recruiters. However, most job seekers are not using these features, and some of them are literally 30-second features. It literally takes you 30 seconds to set these up. So head over into the description, grab the 10 easy ways to stand out even in a crowded job market. So that way you can be the one who stands out to managers and recruiters at your dream position. Grab it in the description. I'm cheering you on, and let's get started with today's episode. Hey friend, let's talk about your amazing God-given brand and the mindset you need to stand out in a crowded job market. Whether you want to launch, pivot, or move up in your career, we're going to tackle this together. Meet up with me each week to help you get confident, get noticed, and get hired. I'm Patricia Ortega, and this is the Uncommon Career Podcast. Hey friend, welcome back. I thought I'd take some time today to talk to you about Chat GPT and how artificial intelligence is making your career search faster. I'm also going to talk to you about what are some things to watch out for when you're using Chat GPT for your career search, specifically your resume, and what I think is going to happen in the future now that we all have access to this secret, not so secret weapon. All right, so if you maybe heard of ChatGPT but haven't yet used it, you actually can go into ChatGPT. It's a very simple interface, and you just ask it a question like you would Google something. And so you can say, ChatGPT, create a resume for a marketing director. And ChatGPT will create a resume for a marketing director. And then you can go in there and edit the resume to, fit your specific experience. On the Career Warrior podcast, I was listening to it maybe a couple of days ago. Chris Villanueva, the host, was saying that in his research, he found that 40% of applicants surveyed had used ChatGPT and their outcomes were higher, meaning that these folks were getting hired at an increased rate. And I think this has a lot to do with the fact that a ChatGPT resume can very easily, through just a single prompt, include keywords that you need for your future position. And so just like that, you have met and exceeded what the applicant tracking system is looking for. This is amazing. I absolutely love that we now have, robot versus robot, ChatGPT versus the applicant tracking system. But I don't think that it ends there. ATS developers are not going to remain stagnant, right? This software is kind of getting upstaged by ChatGPT because now we're like, hey, include all the keywords as you write my resume. Thank you very much. And so I think the ATS will eventually start looking not only for keywords, but also percent of original content versus percent of content created by artificial intelligence. I also think that this means that the importance of a consistent communication between your resume and the experience of having you in the interview room is going to be even more important. And I feel like we might even see more, writing prompts and writing assignments in the interview process just to make sure that, yes, you can articulate yourself just as well without ChatGPT as you can with ChatGPT. I think a lot of interesting things are going to be happening. But let's go on to some pros and cons of using ChatGPT before I walk you through the process that I use to create a resume for someone. Pro number 1, ChatGPT totally avoids that blank paper. I am not a fan of the blank paper. I love working off examples and helping to sort of improve the process and edit. I do a ton of editing, a ton of revision. It's the blank paper that gets me, and I absolutely love ChatGPT for taking care of that. ChatGPT is also, like I said, our secret, not so secret weapon against the ATS machine, at least right now, as far as keywords are concerned. ChatGPT also helps you to gather information, combine information, summarize information, reword information. It helps us to do all these things in lightning speed. And so I think it's going to save us a lot of time, which is that last pro, faster and more efficient, making us faster and more efficient in our career search, in our, the building of our resume, the drafting of our cover letter, etc. But ChatGPT is by no means your new career coach. There is so much to do. By no means is it a professional resume writer. And here's why. First, ChatGPT, like Google, is chock full of wrong information. It's super easy to submit a resume, not only that includes information that maybe a recruiter might be like, that cannot be true, but also it has the potential to submit information about your experience that's not true. And so now you're lying on your resume. So there's something we can do. We basically are going to verify all the information, but just know it's much easier to unknowingly submit false information. The other con for ChatGPT is that ChatGPT is so generic. It lacks nuance. It misses your unique brand and that unique value proposition that you put forward. It misses your personality. It really, in some ways, it rephrases the job description, which is the exact opposite of what any resume writer will tell you. And very soon, this is the last con, very soon, I think ChatGPT resumes will not stand out the way that they're standing out today. I don't know if that's going to happen in the next few weeks, in the next few months, in the next few years, but I think it's going to be very, very quickly that everyone's resume is going to have the keywords needed and the, computer language needed to get past the ATS. But now there's going to be more competition at the interview level. So I think a lot of things are going to change, but those are some of the cons for using ChatGPT. So how do we use ChatGPT for a resume? First, I want you to remember that ChatGPT is only as good as its input. The first time I used ChatGPT, I was like, let's look at everything we can draft up, right? And very quickly I realized, unless I enter very specific and well thought out prompts, the content that ChatGPT puts out is awful. But as your prompts get better, so does the content. I also encourage you to remember that if you don't believe anything on Google, you probably shouldn't believe everything on ChatGPT. ChatGPT is a tool and it needs an operator. So here's a process that I follow. And so if you have ideas on how else to use ChatGPT, I would love to hear them. I think this is an ongoing conversation and we're all just figuring things out. So the first part that I do when I create a resume with ChatGPT is I gather the intelligence and I create a draft. And I do this by taking 3 target job descriptions. So whoever I'm working with will provide 3 job descriptions that they are really excited about, and they should all be job descriptions for the same role, just at different companies. I'm going to copy all that text, paste it into ChatGPT, and I'm going to ask for keywords that an applicant tracking system may look for from those 3 job descriptions. And then I'm going to ask ChatGPT to compile a separate list of additional keywords that are relevant to that role and that industry that the applicant tracking system's artificial intelligence may also look for. Okay, disclaimer here. I'm going to come in here and say that I verify at every step of the process. I don't think I mentioned that as I was going through, but every single response that you get from ChatGPT, you want to verify and edit as necessary to make sure you're moving forward with correct information. All right, let's keep going now. So now what I have is 2 lists. I've got 2 lists of keywords that the applicant tracking system might look for. Now keep in mind, this list is only as good as the input. So right now it's based solely on the data that I provided from those 3 target job descriptions. So if those are not good job descriptions, then you might not have as good of data. And it's also going to use information from ChatGPT, which goes through 2021. So if you are in a field that changes quickly, especially in technology like computer science, for example, you might have outdated information. So just, take all of it with a grain of salt. Okay, so now that we have those 2 keyword lists, now we're going to create a draft. You're going to copy your current resume and you're going to tell ChatGPT, rewrite my current resume below as if you were a candidate with this experience applying for a job as a XYZ. You're going to put your desired position there as an XYZ based on the job descriptions previously submitted. Please include keywords from the XYZ list whenever possible and phrase the resume bullets in terms of measurable outcomes, using fake measures called N. So that seemed to be the prompt that worked the best for me. Now, step 2 is to strategize your unique value proposition. Because up until this point, what you have is just the tip of the iceberg. It's the most generic version of the resume. And now you want to start rephrasing. But before you start rephrasing, your strategy is the most important part of your resume development. And I always think of strategy as the unseen thought process behind the visible pieces that make up your career story. Every time I meet with a client, my goal is to strategize their brand and to bring it together in 3 stages. The first stage is the foundation. These are your personal qualities, your personality tendencies, your traits. The second layer is the substance. These are the skills, experience, knowledge, and abilities that you have. And we pull the most value out of your skills, experience, knowledge, and abilities by creating that unique value proposition, by being able to see how you express these skills in your own unique way that brings more value to an organization than maybe someone else who might not express their skills, experience, knowledge, and abilities in the same way as you. That's the second layer. Then you've got the third layer, and that is the marketing. This is the communication of it all. This is where I take now your experience, and we know how you do things uniquely, but now the goal is to translate everything that we've learned in terms of your future direction. So originally, your resume might express everything you did at a prior position, but now the goal is to figure out what the most important pieces are based on your future position, and not only to put those up at the top, but to also communicate them in terms that are going to resonate with your future hiring manager. So let's start at the beginning. Our conversation might begin with something like, what did you accomplish? What are you most proud of? What is the biggest impact you've had in each position? All of these are top of mind questions. These are questions that are going to be easy to answer, and it's going to help us to get the ball rolling and to get your mind refreshed on all the impact that you've had at your prior positions. But the real work begins only after these questions are answered. Basically, what we did is we just kind of we took everything in a brainstorm and we threw it on a piece of paper. Now we want to dig in deeper for your X factor. What is it that you seem to bring to every workplace now that we've had a chance to talk about your positions? What's your thing? What do you get lost in? What are the types of tasks that you lose track of as you're working? How is working with you different from working with others? What do your colleagues tend to say about you? You're always the one who brings order to chaos, or you're always the one who brings the team together, or you are the one who makes sure that projects get finished, because if anybody else were in charge, we would just go from new project to new project and we'd never finish anything else. So what is that X factor? What talent seems to come easiest for you? Or how do you uniquely move the bottom line? How is it that you express your skill sets in a way that's different from someone else? And once we discover this unique value proposition, this unique way in which you put your skills, experience, knowledge, and abilities to practice, then we move on to the next part. The next question is, how do we translate your experience? How do we communicate it in a way that's going to resonate with your future employer? Now, everyone says don't state your experience in terms of your duties and your responsibilities, right? Really, all you're doing there is just rewriting the job description. I also hear, okay, don't express it as your duties, express it as accomplishments. I totally agree with this. But the part that I think sometimes gets missed is that I encourage you to take a step further. Take all your experience and express it in terms of your accomplishments with the outcomes focused on your future position. Now, that can be a little bit confusing. So let me tell you what I mean. Let's say, for example, you're currently in education and a very meaningful outcome in the field of education is the number of students graduated. If your goal is to take a leap from education into project management, then the number of students graduated is probably not going to resonate with the employer, because that employer isn't in your industry. They're not in education. They don't really know what it takes to move the needle as far as student success. And there's a lot of, what would you call it? There's so much work and intentionality and strategy and effort involved in helping a student to be successful, but someone in project management doesn't know that. And so instead, we would state your accomplishment in terms of project completion, time to delivery, your ability to stay within or under budget, So you can see that those are going to resonate much more in project management than students graduated, as important as that, as that outcome is. So what you're going to do is figure out what your unique value proposition is, and then think about what your future direction is, and then go through your bullets and revise or draft bullets as necessary to include that unique value proposition wherever possible. And of course, ask ChatGPT for help in rewording individual bullets whenever needed. All right, so now that I've gone through and sort of reworded the resume and, moved the order of bullets, changed the way the outcomes are, expressed, and sometimes created whole new bullets and removed bullets altogether. It's a very iterative process, right? So once you go through that resume, the next portion is to verify for accuracy, to improve your content, and to add that humanity piece wherever it's missing. This is probably the second most important part of the process. So you want to go through every single bullet and verify the content is accurate to your own experience. Make sure and replace every single measure with your own numbers, right? Your percentages, etc. Then make improvements through prompts. So maybe you're going to ask ChatGPT, reword this bullet to begin with a compelling verb. Or maybe you want to say, reword this bullet to be between 10 and 20 words. But then you can continue to finish up making improvements manually. So shorten wherever possible, add a bullet if it's missing, choose a word that describes your specific accomplishment, etc. And then I encourage you to take a break from your resume, come back and read it, and ask yourself questions like, if someone else read this, would they be able to tell that it's my experience? Would they be able to look at two resumes, one of these being mine, and one being the resume of someone else who had the same positions, and would they be able to tell mine apart? Do the bullets sound like they come from a job description, or do they reflect how I specifically accomplished the goal? In the end, there is, part ChatGPT, but part creativity and effort in creating your resume. I hope that this has been helpful for you. And remember that ChatGPT is a great tool, but it is still just a tool. I think it's better than Google, but it is just as full of nonsense. I think it is faster than humans, but it lacks that unique differentiator that it's going to become increasingly more important as ChatGPT goes up against the ATS. And if I were to leave you with anything at all, it's this. ChatGPT is best used when it is taken as an opportunity to relieve us from tedious work so that we can think more creatively about our experience and so that we can put our best foot forward without having been tired from doing, the initial drafting of the resume. I hope this has helped you and that this elevates your resume. But at the end of the day, I do encourage you to focus on the creativity side of building your resume, the side that's going to help you to stand out, that's going to be future focused for your next position. And no matter what, just know that I am cheering you on for whatever career leap you are seeking to take. And I'll be back next week with another episode. All right, have a great one. Say hi to ChatGPT for me, and I'll see you on the next one. It's me again. Thank you for listening. You're now done with the very first step in becoming a part of the Uncommon Career community, and that was to listen to this podcast. So, woohoo! Congratulations, you are done. Your next step is to head over to theuncommoncareer.com or to click on the link in the description to get your career resources that are going to help you make career progress right now. So again, before you forget, head over to theuncommoncareer.com or just click the link in the description, grab your resources, and I'll see you there.